Hello, everybody, and welcome. Here we are again. It's Friday of Open Education Week, and we're doing another OEWeek live webcast where we bring interesting people in the studio and we just have open conversations. We don't have slides or formal presentations, and we just get to share what we're doing. And most excited because we have this project that comes to us from University of Leeds. And last year, they provided us a student panel during Open Education Week, and really excited that we're announcing a student-led project that's related to this topic you may have heard about that some people talk about called AI. And I'm being a little bit facetious. Of course, it's on the minds of everybody. And more or less, I'm going to get off the stage and turn it over to our students, Amani and Olivia, and some other people from University of Leeds. And get ready. This is going to be very exciting. And thank you so much, Team Leeds, for doing this.
Okay, I think we are ready to start. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. We'll hand over to Olivia and Amani. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to introduce myself.
Everyone.
Oh, there we go.
My name is Amani, and I'm one of the student editors for the project Learning with AI.
Tell us a little bit about you. Amani, the audio doesn't seem to work very well, unfortunately.
Hello?
Yes? Please try again. We didn't hear. Tell us a little bit
I think it just managed to glitch, yeah. Sorry about that, everyone.
Tell us a little bit
hi. My name is Amani. I'm one of the student editors for the project Learning with AI. Olivia, have you introduced yourself?
No, not yet. I was waiting for you to go.
Amazing. Give a little introduction.
Yeah, lovely. So I'm Olivia. I'm a master's student at Leeds. I'm studying terrorism and insurgency. I'm also one of the editors of the OpenAI Pressbook with Amani. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the project and kind of what we're doing. So this kind of OpenAI Pressbook collects submissions from students at Leeds, but also around the world, on how they use Gen AI to help and highlight their education, both formally and informally. So it's a living book that will be published for everyone to read and gain inspiration from, as well as to learn how others use AI in education from a student perspective. Yeah.
Would everybody else on the Learning AI team would like to introduce themselves? We'll start with Chrissy.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to be here. And we are delighted to have Olivia here with us and Amani, our editors of this collection. We are very excited about the whole project. My name is Chrissy Noanzi. I'm in the School of Education at the University of Leeds. And I had this crazy idea to do it. And I found other crazy people to actually do it together. So it's wonderful to be here. I'll hand over to Damien. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. I'm Damien McDonald, Senior Learning Technologist at the University of Leeds. My job is to work with people like Chrissy to make the student experience more better. And we do that in a variety of ways, in a variety of platforms. And it's enormous fun. And it's a pleasure to be part of this project with these amazing students and amazing colleagues.
Hi, my name's Kirsty McDermott. I'm an Open Education Resources Advisor from the library, and I'm here supporting wonderful authors such as yourselves on the student-led AI book and many others, and working on the University of Leeds Open Book.
And we are delighted to have the support from the library as well, very strong support in this project, and we will hear more about it a bit later on. But I would like to ask maybe Olivia and Amani at this stage how they feel of being involved in this project, if they're actually considering, we hadn't had this conversation yet, to submit something as well, if they are both using AI for their learning, and how has it been so far to actually work with members of staff at the institution from different parts? Should we start with Amani?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chrissy. I was going to say the project itself has taught me a lot about the University of Leeds about how we use AI like on a daily basis, and how the future of students using AI is going to change so much, and like the landscape of AI in the future, and how it's going to help us. For me personally, again, it's also been fantastic opportunity to meet so many new people, different staff, and learn more about what their process next.
Yeah, so me personally, again, like Amani, it's been really great to see kind of learn a bit more about the use of AI from students, but it's really also been interesting for me to see how much work goes into just everything to do with what universities and people put out, because, you know, so far, me and Amani, along with the team, we've been working on the submission forms and kind of looking at structuring that and making sure the words are all correct. And there's just so much work that goes into making sure that, you know, every sentence structure is perfect and all the words are the right choice to really hit home. And that was something that I was aware of before, but this has really kind of opened my eyes about like how much work goes into making these sorts of calls and making these sorts of forms. So that's been really, really interesting for me to see. And then just as well to be able to see how the University of Leeds works on like a professional basis as well. And kind of how invested they are in learning from students and getting students' perspective on things, and allowing students to help each other and have their own say in what's happening as well. So I found that really interesting. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear, isn't it? I mean, we are all smiling here from the University of Leeds that you recognize and see value in that activity, but also recognize the work that often happens behind the scenes, isn't it? Because you communicate and you interact with your lecturers in a very different capacity. And maybe sometimes students think, you know, all we do is go into the classroom and then out again, and then we just disappear until next week. But there is a lot to do on a daily basis. That's lovely to hear. And what we have done, Olivia already started saying a few words. We have prepared the call for submissions, and that is now live even. And we turned it into a research project as well, so that we follow GDPR guidelines, and we do this in an ethical way, which is really important, but also release the contributions and the book itself, and the growing book, under an open license and as open data to encourage further research going forward as well. I think maybe Damien can tell us a little bit about the survey itself and the challenges we had and how we solved the problems.
Yeah, absolutely, Christy. So we're using JISC surveys, formerly Bristol Online Surveys, really in terms of GDPR, in terms of making sure that everybody is safe. It's really a safe haven. The data is kept in places where we know it's secure. It's also would form part of our ethical approval process at the University of Leeds. It would be an awful lot easier for us to whip up a Google form and send it out there. We couldn't guarantee the safety of the data and the safety of our students' information. So we've done it the right way. It's taken an awful lot of work to get there. We have literally just got there before this meeting came online. We've launched the survey, and now we're looking forward to collecting the results.
Thank you. We'll hand over to Olivia. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, that's amazing. I'd really love now to ask Kirsten just to tell us a bit more about the Pressbook at Leeds specifically, and kind of motivations behind that.
Sure. So we've recently started our exciting new University of Leeds open books, and that's using Pressbooks. So it's our new exciting library-led diamond publishing service, designed to help staff and students create and share high quality OER. That's freely available to anyone, anywhere. So we're using the Pressbooks platform. It's a really great authoring tool, but also for the dissemination wise, it's a great platform to get your books out there. really good supportive team at Pressbooks. So we've been really happy with that partnership so far. And it's really a good author tool to help authors to adapt and publish a wide range of materials. So whether that's open textbooks or teaching resources or reflective e-portfolios, for example, there's all sorts of different things, all sorts of different OERs that can really lend themselves to book format. So everything's published openly licensed, which means it can be reused and remixed and redistributed by others, helping to widen access to knowledge and reduce barriers to learning. And books published from our Pressbooks platform are designed with accessibility in mind and can be read online or downloaded in multiple formats like PDF or EPUB, which can be used on a variety of different devices and, of course, in different teaching and learning contexts. So here, as a library, we're really keen to offer support and guidance. So we help with every stage of the process, from getting started with writing to creating your books in Pressbooks, and adapting and how to understand, you know, the murky landscape of licensing and copyright, and making sure that books meet accessibility standards, which is, of course, really, really central with OER. So ultimately, the University of Leeds Open Books is about creating sustainable open educational resources that have real impact and real quality. And it's not just about our own students, but it's about learners and educators, both here and worldwide as well. So we have a fantastic cohort of trailblazing academics and students, such as yourself, Olivia Lamani, today. There's also a lot of collaboration happening at other institutions as well. So a lot of our authors are working with different institutions, different academics across the globe. Really exciting. So they're all working hard to really push forward in creating essential OERs, from topics ranging from the digital humanities to research data, mathematics, Spanish, and also international human rights law. And not, of course, forgetting our very first completely student-led book, Learning with AI, which I'm so excited about as well. Yeah. I really hope to be sharing some of these books with you again down the line when they're published. And all this is really strongly connected also to our knowledge equity network here at Leeds, where we're working with open education and open research to make more collaborative and inclusive partnerships across the globe. So in short, making knowledge more accessible isn't just good practice, it's essential for real equity.
That's amazing. And can you tell us a number? How many books actually currently in development? And thank you for supporting this initiative with such great commitment, Kirsten. I know all the work you have done behind the scenes and directly also with all these authors and multiple projects. How many do we have?
So we've currently got 15 books 15. Under production at the moment. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big juggling moment.
Yeah, sure.
So what has been the surprise maybe for you, and what has been a big challenge?
I suppose, well, it's been challenging in the respect that it's very hard, I think, for authors to kind of find that time to be able to write, to be able to create. And it's so important, isn't it, for teaching and learning to actually have that space to do what you need to do. And I think, you know, with research and with teaching, it's about insensitizing it as much as possible, and you know, rewarding it as much as possible. So I think there's a lot more to do in this space where academics are, you know, properly rewarded and actually have that kind of incentives and time to built in for really making impactful open educational resources. So yeah, it's just really lots of challenges. I mean, helped by Pressbooks being such a great tool, but of course there's a learning curve to understand how to use it, even though it is very user friendly. and helping people, use it. I mean, you've used it yourself. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't that difficult, I have to say, to start using it, because it reminds me of WordPress, and I have a blog for many years. So the interface seems to be quite similar.
It's so good. Yeah, so it's just, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but if you're experienced with WordPress, and you've got a bit of a head start with it. But everybody who's kind of gone to the training has been picking it up, and I would, it's really, really great. I mean, it would be so impossible, like, without that platform to do it, wouldn't it? So the fact that there's this infrastructure now to enable open education is wonderful.
Yes, it's also wonderful that the University of Leeds is actually investing in, that support that we get, because it's not just a platform, but actually having somebody to talk to. And we're not referring to generative AI, we're talking to a real human being. And Kirsten has been at that end and very supportive on multiple projects.
To bring a book about, it's, I think, it's so nice to see, like, people chipping in. Like, it's mainly run from people volunteering their time a lot of the time. So you have projects where people dive in and do different sort of tasks, which is really heartening. And it's it's amazing how many, like, books have multiple people working on it, looking at different aspects of it, and are really keen to dedicate their time and their knowledge to create these wonderful books.
Yes, because there are also at least some projects and some colleagues and students who are very new to open education as well, and actually producing a whole book at once. That's quite exciting, but also, creates difficulties as well.
Of course. I think it's a real, like, facilitator to be able to just get in there. You don't have to have any experience necessarily of doing this before. We'll guide you through the process, and it's a really good opportunity because books will hopefully have a really good reach, and and be able to publish the books to the world in a way that facility, that kind of publishing venue might not have been available to people, especially maybe early career researchers who might find publishing challenging.
Should we ask Olivia maybe and Amani to tell us how they feel about that? We are actually creating our own books. We are not going out to publishers. Universities have become publishers themselves and involve anybody who basically wants and has the knowledge and wants to learn in that co-creation of books. How do you feel about that? Should we start with Olivia maybe?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing initiative. I think it's really great. I also think, what you were saying about inclusivity and accessibility, that's so important. And I think it's great that universities are really prioritizing accessibility in education. I think that it's having these sort of books coming from the university and having them be open and accessible and available to everyone just helps people learn, and that's what people are at university for. That's what people who enjoy learning want to do, and so I think that's really amazing. Yeah,
great, thank you. Amani?
Yeah, I completely agree with Olivia. Like, the university going forward to create resources that are accessible for all, and it'll be a resource used forever. Like, I think it's amazing, fantastic.
I think one also thing that I personally find quite useful is that you can do it quite at speed. Often, creating with a traditional publisher, it takes years. I remember I was involved in a book project that we started in 2015, and it came out in 2019. So now we are just launching, the book today, and it's going to be published by September, the latest, we say, which means that, if everything goes well and we get the contributions we want, we will be publishing it much earlier, and that's just amazing. But also the cost implications, isn't it, Kirsten? What about the cost?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, huge amounts to publishers.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole thing with open access book publishing at the moment, that the book processing charge is just colossal at the moment. So if you do want to make your book open access, it's very, very difficult to still do that. So the fact that there's a way to do that through library-led publishing is wonderful.
Great.
And there's less restrictions as well. You know, you're not gonna we're not gonna be like really. We're prizing ourselves on high quality. Like our books will be going through peer review processes, really high quality. But I think, you know, it's safe to say that academics will have much more like freedom, much more academic freedom. You know, we're not going to be putting our agenda on it, which is another really good bonus, I think, for academic-led, you know, library-led, scholar-led publishing.
Yeah, and what you said there is really important, that this is actually, the books are all peer reviewed, and actually through that collaborative process, peer review is built into the co-creative aspect of it, but obviously at the end, there will be additional peer review, and that's something that open education resources and open education more generally is often sort of looked at as, because you do it yourself, it may not be a good quality, etc. But actually, this is something to think about more critically, I think, because peer review in open education resources and books and research is actually open and transparent, highly collaborative and ongoing. So it's more rigorous, I would potentially argue, than traditional publishing, where sometimes, you know, under anonymous peer review, you can actually hide and say anything. That may not be constructive or useful or valuable or relevant even.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got peer review process sort of underway now, where we've been, I've been busy contacting a lot of potential peer reviewers, and have got some people willing to go into the peer review pool, so that's really exciting. But we also say to our academics that please do suggest peer reviewers as well. But when it comes to the peer review, it could be somebody from the pool that's selected, or it could be somebody that somebody's selected, or different academics who's selected something not from their book, but for another person's book. So it's still going through that kind of ethical process where it's like a single blind review. So, but the people will get a mention if they want to in the book, so the peer reviewer will get acknowledged. So yeah, I mean, there's ways of doing it that's still very ethical, very responsible, and produces high quality. There's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be, because ultimately the same people are peer reviewing that peer review the academic, you know, publishers, the commercial publishers. It's not the commercial publishers who are providing the reviews. I mean, they're facilitating it and coordinating it, but it's the academics, of course, who are doing the reviews, and we know this. This has been one of the dialogues for many years of unfair labour for peer review and unpaid labour. So it's taking that work. Obviously, people are dedicating their time, but it's not the publisher that's kind of doing that. You know, it's the academic, isn't it? So
it's fascinating.
That same process, that same quality embedded.
Yes, exactly. Amani, I was wondering how you feel about hearing about all that peer review stuff and academics and other, members of staff at our university. And it will be the same in other universities, working together collaboratively and reviewing each other's work. I mean, as an educator myself, I often encourage my students to work with, with their peers, and we talk about peer learning. Is this happening in your case? Do you connect with other students and learn together and share what you're doing?
I think specifically for my course, it's not something that I usually do. I do environmental science, but I think for other courses, like maybe perhaps like Olivia's, it's done more often. But I think in this context, I think it's fantastic. I think we're getting different thoughts from different groups of different maybe faculties, different types of staff that work in different courses, and I think it's amazing to get just really different thoughts again.
Great. Olivia, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think Amani kind of said it all. Like, it is great to have kind of collaboration and communication and kind of working with just kind of everyone, different faculties, different schools, different departments. I think it's really amazing. Yeah.
Should we ask Damien? I mean, the book we are putting together is going to have many many, we hope, student contributions on how they're using AI to support their learning, but there are also educators. So let's listen maybe and hear what Damien would like to say about how the university is supporting academics in that area.
Thank you, Christy. Artificial intelligence, generative AI in particular, has hit us like a ton of bricks. It's been an absolute game changer. It came from nowhere just over 2 years ago when everybody suddenly had access to ChatGPT, and it's just got better and better and more sophisticated, and more tools have appeared. What hasn't changed since that time is academic engagement with those tools. So recent research has told us that 92% of undergraduates in the UK are now using generative AI for their studies, which is up from 56% this time last year. So it's almost doubled in the space of 12 months, which is incredible. Our job at universities is to help prepare our students for the world they will go into when they leave the University of Leeds. And one of the things we need to prepare them for is using generative AI tools, which I think will become as common as Googling became. And I'm old enough to remember a time before Google existed. I'm old enough to remember a time before the internet existed. So all of this stuff to me is almost indistinguishable from magic. I'm still.
I think we are the last generation to remember the time before the internet.
I think you're absolutely right, Christy. And it's one of those things that keeps me interested, keeps me excited. And the way that we support staff at the University of Leeds is by getting them all together for a series of interactive workshops that my team and I have been running. And we bring them into a darkened room. We get them to open their laptops, and we help them to explore the tools that are available. So not just the university sanction tool, which is Copilot, which obviously it's important, they need to know how to use that. And what we do is we help develop their competence and their confidence by doing. And this is a wonderful thing to do with learners, whatever sector you're in, is to actually create workshops which are interactive, which are fun, which are exciting, and which help them gain a greater understanding of what it is that they're using. Now, we have two key moments when we introduce academics to some of the wonderful things that are out there. The first one is a moment of kind of revelation where they go, oh, wow, this is amazing. I had no idea that AI could do this.
Can you give us an example?
Absolutely. So something like Notebook LM is capable of doing amazing things where you put in papers. So you collate some papers, you bring those papers in, you actually then ask it to write using generative AI about those papers. So you can do a literature review with that. So that's amazing enough. That's something that takes a lot of time for academics. It's something they might set for students to do as a task. The fact that it can be almost automated using something like Notebook LM is amazing. What is truly wondrous is that you can then select a button which will turn those insights into a podcast. So a genuine sounding conversation between two people taking what they call a deep dive into the subject matter that you've put into that system. It really is incredible, and an absolute privilege to introduce academic staff to that for the first time, because they had no idea. They were thinking that perhaps generative AI was a kind of super Google. It would summarize things, but it can do so much more. I get emails every day telling me about new tools which are being created, new systems which are coming online, many of which are very specialist tools. So for example, there is a specialist Gen AI tool for creating legal contracts. That's amazing. But if one of the assessments that you set in the School of Law is creating legal contracts, you now need to be aware that certain students, with the press of a button, can do that very quickly and very easily. Therefore, what perhaps you need to do is get them to embrace generative AI, create those contracts, and the actual assignment where they get the work is to review those contracts, improve those contracts, make sure that those contracts are as good as they first appear. So there are ways of incorporating generative AI that embrace it, that teach our students how to use it creatively, responsibly, ethically, And then hopefully then we'll be able to take those skills out into the real world and do all of the above when they leave the University of Leeds. So it really is very exciting times for us, and some very exciting things coming online every single day, which is amazing.
Thank you, Tim. What you just said about assessment, isn't it? That's one of the biggest fears of all time for academics. What on earth am I going to do if the students can go automatically and get their assignment written or generated, let's say, by AI? And what you suggest there about radically, I would say, rethink, how we engage with it, not avoid it, not put it in a box and forget about AI, that it actually exists, but actually embrace it. And see how we can use that as a genuine opportunity to transform assessment so that it's meaningful, prepares our students not just for work in the future, but life more generally and what's to come, and the unpredictability of the world we live in is really, really important. But also one point you highlighted there, that you are doing these sessions with staff. I would love to hear, maybe Amani, if that's okay, how you feel about that educators, that academics are also learning, in this case around generative AI, but we are also often, regularly involved in professional development. Do you see that as something that we should be doing, or do you see an academic knows everything and after they have their qualification, they have their teaching qualification, etc., they can stop learning and just share what they know with their students? Amani?
I think that academics should always continue learning, because the landscape of education is forever changing. Like, we'll never, especially with AI in this context again, like resources and technology is just forever changing. We can't ever think we'll stop learning now, because the things that we know will just become so irrelevant to today's context. So yeah, I think definitely just continuing to learn and continuing to grow, as we should. It's amazing to see. Yeah.
Great. And one way of doing it is learning together, because we often learn, from our students as well. Damien just said a bit earlier that there are almost 100% of students are using generative AI, and there are far less educators who have engaged so far. So it presents an opportunity, a valuable opportunity, I think, to see students not as empty vessels, but as actually, entities that have something of value to contribute, that can help also us educators to learn. So that's amazing. I'll hand over to Olivia maybe, and to tell us a little bit about the contributions, what we are looking for in the book. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. So we're looking for contributions from students kind of anywhere across the world who have used Gen AI in their education. So we're looking for kind of quite detailed stories, ideally. I think we've set about 500, 700 word submissions, just so we get a good amount of detail, because the more is better for formal and informal learning, and also use of AI. So that's text-based, but we're also looking for, and which will be reviewed before adding into the book to make sure that it meets all criteria that needs to be met. We're also looking for artwork for the book and the cover, which is really exciting as well. And then I believe it's once we have at least 10 submissions that have all been reviewed, then the book will be released with those and will continue to be updated as people continue to add them in, because it's a living book, and so it gets to be kind of continuously upgraded and changing and evolving, which is really cool and also quite interesting.
And something you can't really do with an ordinary book, isn't it? Kirsten? No.
No, it's definitely one of the many advantages of Pressbooks, the fact that you can continuously update books, which is great for OERs. And also, if you a book like yours, you can ask for contributions from all around the world, and they can submit at any time, and you can just add them to the book.
So when is our submission deadline?
Off the top of my head.
The first submission deadline. Do we know? This is a test.
Off the top of my head.
Anybody?
May? Was it May?
Yeah,
May.
31st of May, everybody.
Yes.
31st of May.
So there's
There you
plenty of
go.
time. And if you're watching or listening into our conversation, please share the link and encourage students wherever they are. Everybody is welcome to contribute and share how they're using generative AI for the learning, as Olivia said, formally in their studies, but also there's obviously the lifelong and life-wide learning aspect. And this is not about I'm allowed or not allowed in my program to use it. This is about how I am using it as a student, and I'm actually a student myself at the moment, so there may be a contribution from me as well in the book. How I'm using it, how we are using it as students to learn. This is not about cheating. This is not about shortcuts. This is about pure learning and the joy of learning, and how we can utilize AI together with many other tools we are using as students for our learning. So 31st of May, there's no excuse not to contribute, I think. And Olivia, do you have an idea what you could potentially contribute?
Ooh, this is interesting, and I don't know if it counts. I have used AI in my education, but I also tutor on the side, which counts as education.
Okay.
And I have used generative AI to create lesson plans and get ideas of what to teach. I don't know if that counts, because it's not a university, but it is education.
But we are looking for higher education, examples of how students are using it in higher education and from the student perspective. So how we as students have used it or are using it at the moment.
Last year, when I used to study Arabic for my undergraduate, we were offered to do a task with generative AI, which was we would, what was it? It was translate something using generative AI from Arabic into English or English into Arabic, and then do it ourselves manually and then compare them and see how we could use both of them to improve the other. So kind of checking generative AI in terms of foreign language creation, and then also kind of cross-referencing that with our own writing.
Yes, and that's something interesting you mentioned there about the need we often feel when we get something that is generated by AI to check, to confirm by a human being, by other sources. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, because we are doing this naturally with anything. We filter things out. We are critically engaging with what we experience, what we read about, what we are told, etc. So it's no different really, but it's extremely valuable. Thank you for sharing that example about translation as well. What about you, Amani?
Again, I think it's quite similar to Olivia. In my first year, I took a module which was actually to do with Arabic as well, and in a project we needed to translate a specific dialect for something, and it was really difficult to find the translations of it on Google and things like that, because it wouldn't always be accurate. So we got I think it was the orange light to use AI on our project. And we ended up translating parts of this book using an AI platform. And I think with languages specifically, it's incredibly useful, obviously, when you have the specific light, when you're allowed to use it in a specific context, because it's very helpful, specifically with dialects.
That's fascinating. I used to be a translator. I've translated books before the internet, like Damien said, and it was really difficult because I was relying on heavy encyclopedias and very specialized, very expensive resources, etc. So this is now transforming, obviously the internet as well, but this is now transforming translation as well. Translators for many years have been fearful of machine translations, etc., that they would lose their jobs. We know that jobs will change, some will disappear, but the human touch will be needed and will be desired, because we are unique as human beings. We have a brain, we come up with imaginative ideas that perhaps generative AI can't do, at least at this stage yet. Okay, that's great. So we have our submission deadline. You both have maybe some ideas of how you could contribute. That's just amazing. And what we could do is we know that it's an open book. It will travel. It will travel further because it will be the submission deadline will remain open after the 31st. But we have secured, thanks to the library, and we are grateful for that support, some small funding to randomly give some vouchers to 3 lucky winners for their contribution. There are small amounts and symbolic, and for the artwork, the winning artwork will be used as a cover, and there will be another additional small amount in vouchers as well for that. But we would love to receive a range of artwork. Some of them could be, and I'll hand over to Damien maybe to tell us, partially generated by AI. We do want that human touch in there, but we will review again all the artwork and see how many of those we can include in the book, so it becomes actually a visual resource as well that will be useful for further conversations in various scenarios, if you like, with in staff development, but also students discussing generative AI. Can you tell us a bit more about that aspect, Damien?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is something that's been in the news headlines quite recently, is the way that generative AI systems use existing artworks, whether they be works of literature, music, or indeed, in this case, art, to train their systems. So when you type in a prompt, a simple prompt, it will look into at all of those pieces of work and create something which is an amalgamation or a combination of all of those things that have gone before. And it's difficult in this way to separate the person from the generative AI. So how much input you put into it, generally, the more you put in, the better the results will be that come out. So on the one hand, you could say that generative AI artwork is amazingly empowering. If you're somebody like me who has difficulty drawing a stick figure, to be able to produce some crazy space age alien scene for a lecture that I'm giving is absolutely wonderful. On the other hand, like I said, there are those ethical implications, and work is afoot now worldwide to try and make sure that artists, musicians, writers are getting credit, they are getting paid for their work being used in that way. But when it comes to the book, we are looking for people to creatively use generative AI to make images, and indeed the front cover, to make something wonderful and unique. And we're not just looking for somebody just to type in make picture for book, which would probably be the simplest prompt. We're looking for people to actually put some of their heart and soul into it and help the generative AI system think and learn and create something which is truly unique and wonderful, that communicates how perhaps they've used generative AI in their higher education journeys. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out. I'm quite intrigued to see what happens when our inbox starts filling up with these images, Chrissy.
Yes, and that call will go out hopefully next week. So at the moment, the call we have is just for the written submission. We're working on a way of collecting these images. And if anybody has any ideas, please let us know so that we do it ethically as well. We have ethical approval for the project, so we just want to be very, very careful and do this properly. I think Alan shared in the chat a potential tool, better images of AI. So that's something we can look at, and I'm sure it will be useful for many others who may be watching here today. Like we said, our first deadline is the end of May, and the sooner we get the 10 submissions, the faster we will work in the background to get the book published. And how amazing would it be to have it ready earlier, not even waiting until September. So if you know anybody who would be interested, or you yourself are a student in higher education, undergraduate, postgraduate, or doctoral student, in fact, please think about it, consider it. On the submission form, you will see the information sheet. about the project itself. Read it carefully. There's a consent form, and only if you're happy with everything, please submit. But our purpose is to share these stories, to share these experimentations with using AI for learning, and I think that's really important. It's for learning, not for cheating or any other purpose. For learning, how they support our learning, to enlighten perhaps all of us and see the plethora of examples of practices that are out there already, and learn from it. So the book will be equally, we anticipate, useful for students worldwide, but also educators to get inspirations and ideas of what they could try, and maybe even those who will be reading the first or second iteration of the book will become contributors later on, based on ideas that others will have contributed, and we hope will acknowledge when they do so. And that's one of the beauties of open education and open educational resources. So we can model that also through the same book. So from reader, you become contributor, and who knows, maybe even editor in the future, or peer reviewer. There are unlimited opportunities to engage in open education if we want to do good to others and share what we know with others. I think if learning is about sharing, and Kirsten said how many of our colleagues and students are generally sharing their time. This is about reciprocity, giving back to others. There are so many open education practitioners who have given so much. It's engaging with things like this to give back, I think, as well. And we are very grateful, and we will call Alan back, I think, in a second. We are very grateful to the University of Leeds for their strong support to the project, and especially our Deputy Vice Chancellor in Student Education, Jeff Grabble, and Dr. Margaret Korosek, our institutional dean for online and digital education, who are behind this project and are very excited. And one thing that Jeff told me personally, I have no idea if he's listening or not, is, do we have to wait until September? So let's see if we can get it out quicker. Thank you so much, our wonderful students, Olivia and Amani, who took ownership of this project and are very committed to bring this to fruition, and everybody else in the team, but also beyond, who's supporting us, and obviously OE Global, and especially Alan, who made that possible. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, everybody, especially Olivia and Amani. It's I'm most excited when we can have students talk about their use of AI, and also like the idea that we're really looking to get some stories from around the world if possible, because I think it's really hard to know the context in so many different places, and so valuable, and of course for storytelling. And I guess I'll just say, where can people kind of tune in to find the progress of this project?
Well, you tune in. At the moment, there is no platform nor presence online. We just have the call. We will be promoting via LinkedIn, via institutional channels, and we are at the moment, thank you for the question, working on the communication strategy with our experts in digital education service to see what we can do. But I think having a home somewhere, and I don't know, Kirsten, that's something we can also discuss, if it can actually be the book, I don't know, as an embryo, if you like, at the moment, that will evolve over the coming months to make that process transparent. I don't know, but I suspect, and I'm sure Kirsten will help us with this as well. Thank you for the question, Alan.
Oh, fine. And of course, when you know, you'll tell us, and we'll let everybody else know about that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your support.
And again, just a gracious thank you to Amani and Olivia. It's really important to have students leading this project, and that's what University of Leeds does so well. And thanks everybody as well for listening in. This is Open Education Week. It's Friday, but things are happening, continuing into next week. And I think it's worthy to take some time to like sit back, hopefully over the weekend, and relax away from the screens and think about the things you've learned and what else you might want to share outward. And with that, we're going to let the exit music go, and we'll go about our days, which is end of the days to our colleagues across the waters. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you. Bye-bye.